Hey, what's up guys? Tyler here with Secure Team. I've got a lot of stuff to show you guys today, some UFO sightings, some strange news happening around the world, and well, let's go ahead and get to it. So the first thing I want to talk about today is the mysterious proliferation and appearance of these massive craters or sinkholes or whatever you want to call them that have been discovered opening up all over Siberia. And just to put this into perspective, the area that these are appearing is basically one of the most remote places on Earth. So if you've been following this story, this has been happening for years now, having really started to pick up steam in the mainstream media at about 2013, 2014. And scientists have been baffled, have been demanding an explanation. And so they started in northern Russia, and satellite imagery over the years has revealed that there have even more that have been popping up. Last year, there were about 4 new large craters and likely dozens of additional smaller holes or craters that have been found. Now, it's said that due to the massive impact of these craters, scientists are trying to understand how exactly they form, and why it would seem that the bottom is literally dropping out from under people's feet all over Siberia. It's actually quite scary when you think about it, because some of these holes are bottomless, and many of them have some very strange characteristics that have led many to believe, including myself, that these are much more than just your standard sinkholes, and I'll talk more about that here in a minute. And while we're talking, I'm showing you images here. Here's one of the more recent holes that appeared. It was about 100 feet wide, and a lot of these will continue to grow. And this was in Siberia's Yamal Peninsula. And so no one's quite certain as to what's going on here. Now, the Siberian Times reported that some of the witnesses to these holes have described these, quote, explosive events that may be connected to their appearance. Reindeer herders spotted one of the first huge holes in 2013, measuring around 13 feet wide and nearly 330 feet deep. It was said that as the men stumbled across their find, they were almost swallowed up by the crater. And the herders never saw what made the hole, which has since grown to a whopping 230 feet wide. It's also said that villagers who live dozens of miles away have been finally coming forward to say that they heard and saw something very strange shortly before the craters were found. According to a Russian news outlet, a respected scientist who goes by the name of Dr. Vladimir Epifanov, who is the sole leading expert to so far visit the site, said, and I quote, "There is verbal information that residents of nearby villages at a distance of 70 to 100 kilometers, or around 40 to 60 miles, heard a sound like an explosion, and one of them watched a clear glow in the sky." Since that first crater appeared in the winter of 2013, more have shown up, many of which have been spotted by pilots flying overhead. And of course, lacking a better explanation, theories having to do with aliens or underground missiles were floated as possible reasons. Now, of course, some scientists have come forward and attempted to blame this on climate change, and that maybe this is just permafrost breaking up underneath the soil. And that definitely may be true for some of these holes. However, the large majority of these things are displaying characteristics that defy rational or natural explanations. For instance, if you look at a lot of these holes, they look almost laser cut out of the ground, with very smooth rims and inner walls. Even CNN did a story on this, who I call the corrupt news network, but that's another story. But they did a story, again, attempting to link this to climate change, which they will likely scream until the end. But many people who have looked at this have given their thoughts of what it could be, and I'll go ahead and read you some of those comments here. So one user stated, and I quote, "Gas can never make these holes like this. Bombs can't form a shape like this either. Asteroids do not do this. If an asteroid hits the Earth, it would melt the Earth and spread. Two things come to my mind. Either aliens, who might have had their ships buried here for thousands of years, or Russia is testing some sort of space laser weapon that is currently orbiting Earth in space and shooting down, creating these pristine holes." Another user said, quote, "Odd for a sinkhole to have dirt push up from the sides. The walls are smooth, as if melted or cut, maybe by a new space weapon. Or erosion smoothed the walls after the hole is made, but still sinkholes wouldn't cause the dirt to push upward. Some other users alluded to a possible underground explosion or atomic weapons test, with one stating, quote, "What scares me is this. They look very much like subsidence craters. These craters are formed from testing underground atomic and nuclear weapons. These same type of craters were formed back in the 30s in the deserts of Las Vegas, when the government was testing atomic bombs for the first time. I don't know what these are, as the holes look laser cut almost, but look it up because the subsidence holes look very similar." And some more of the fringe theories came from users like this who simply said, quote, "Hollow Earth, look it up." And finally, we have another user who stated simply that, "I don't know why, but sinkholes and things like this seriously creep me out." And so there you have it. We have a range of theories here. From what I can see, most of them having to do with the fact that these holes look laser cut and that they may have been made by some sort of space weapon, which is actually corroborated by one of the witnesses from a nearby village, if you remember earlier, who came forward and spoke about hearing an explosion and just before seeing a beam of bright light coming down from the sky. Another very interesting theory is the idea that these were actually holes made from buried alien craft, which, if you remember, is exactly what happened in the pretty terrifying film War of the Worlds, where they have all of these giant tripod-looking alien ships that have been buried all over the world for millions of years, lying dormant, waiting just for the right time to uproot themselves and take over the planet. It's definitely a fascinating theory and terrifying, I'll give him that. And of course, lastly, we have the possibility of secret underground nuclear tests. So, a lot of ideas here. I wanted to see what you guys think because these things are continually popping up. And when you have scientists flat out admitting that they don't know what's going on, well, that's when you know the story is definitely juicy and worthy some further investigation. So let me know what you guys think about that, and if you've maybe seen one of these yourselves, definitely put it down in the comments. Now on to another very interesting story, a UFO sighting that recently occurred during an air show known as Skyfest. So this happened in Spokane, Washington, where people got together and were recording the Thunderbirds who were flying by during the air show at the Fairchild Air Force Base. And in one of the pieces of footage, they caught some very anomalous movement by something unidentified moving through the skies at a very high rate of speed. So go ahead and check this clip out from the KHQ6 news team.
Dan, are we alone?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Well, it's an age-old question scientists and astronomers have been trying to answer for years.
Yeah, a sighting at Skyfest this past weekend has some wondering if a UFO was flying above us.
And as KHQ local news reporter Joe McHale shows us, hopefully you didn't blink.
While eyes were on the sky and pilots were wowing the thousands of spectators at Skyfest, something else might have been putting on its own show. Did you see it? The video was taken in slow motion. We'll slow it down even more so you don't miss it. Pay close attention. Just before the Thunderbirds pass each other, notice a white object dart in front of the screen.
Never have I captured anything like this ever.
John Wichelo was the man behind the camera Sunday.
It would seem that it was moving incredibly fast, since the announcer said those jets were going almost 500 miles an hour and they look slow by comparison.
Wichelo says he didn't see the unidentified object until hours later when he was looking back at the day's videos.
But some people talk about meteors or birds or bugs that are actually close to the camera. I looked at it so closely, I really don't think that it's any of those.
Later in the video, you can see another object. This one is black and crosses underneath the vertical-bound Thunderbird. So we called the director at the National UFO Reporting Center to ask the question, were we alone at Fairchild Air Force Base this weekend? He didn't want to go on camera, but says it could have been anything and wants more evidence before confirming or debunking that intelligent life made an appearance at the air show.
Carl Sagan said that there are more stars out there than grains of sand on the beach. And if there's that many stars, and many of them are older than ours, well, it seems, since I believe we'll get to the stars one day, that why not the possibility that someone has gotten here already.
Until he's proven otherwise,
See, you can still see it. It is way back there.
Wicherlow will believe the Thunderbird pilots weren't flying alone.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, this video pretty much explains it for me, and I definitely think that they've captured something here. Two separate objects, one that almost looks sort of like it's glowing, but it's opaque. You can almost see through it, moving extremely fast. It doesn't look to me like a flower or a bug or anything like that. And then secondly, we have this black object, again, looks to be flying in the distance. It's completely baffled the people who saw it, who recorded it. So, very interesting sighting. We've seen these UFOs at air shows in the past, tracking or shadowing planes. They were called Foo Fighters during World War II, where pilots would spot these glowing orbs shadowing their ships, playing chicken with them in some instances. So, we could have here yet another case where these visitors, as I call them, have been captured in the area of our aircraft, possibly inspecting our technology and maybe doing reconnaissance for their trip back to wherever they came from. So, interesting stuff. Let me know what you guys think about this, and thank you all for stopping by today. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't yet, and stick around because I've got a lot more coming, and I will see you all back in just a bit. Stay safe, guys.